Well, good morning, General Conference. Good morning to the delegates, the Episcopal leaders, United Methodist clergy and laity, and all who are joining us by live stream. We welcome you to this space, and we're so glad you're here. My name is Tom Berlin. I serve as the Bishop of the Florida Conference in the Southeast Jurisdiction. And I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ. This is the fourth plenary session of the postponed 22 General Conference, and it is called to order at this time. Directly behind me, I've asked Bishop Cynthia Morkakoy and Bishop Cedric Bridgeforth to join me as we do our best to preside this morning. I'm grateful for their presence here. I'm also grateful for our parliamentarian who is next to me, Maurice Henderson, who asked me not to name him, and I did it anyway. I am a white male. I am 60 years old. I am young at heart, and I strive for the wisdom of my elders. I defy description on my best days. But I wake in the morning with the knowledge that I am a child of God, and I see that in you as well. And I believe that as long as all of us see that in each other, we're going to be fine today. I want to give thanks to Bishop Niwatiwa for a fabulous opening to the morning and to our worship team as well. If Bishop Niwatiwa has a book that's in Cokesbury, it looks just like this, By the Grace of God, you might stop by the display and see if that would be helpful to you. And I also want to share one other item. The delegation in Sierra Leone, today is their Independence Day. And I think that just should be mentioned and honored. And I want to make sure that that is acknowledged. Now at this time, the chair invites, I'm going to have an opening prayer, and then I'm going to invite our first speakers. Let us pray. New every morning is your love, great God of light, and all day long you are working for good in the world. Stir up in us a desire to serve you, to live peacefully with our neighbors, and to devote each day to your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ the Lord. Amen. At this time, the chair invites Reverend Giovanni Aroro, General Secretary of the Commission of Religion and Race, and Ms. Dawn Wiggins-Hare, General Secretary of the Commission of the Status and Role of Women, to provide the morning report.
Buenos dias.
Good morning.
General Secretary Giovanni Arroyo, Baltimore, Washington Conference, Latinx, clergyman, adult.
General Secretary Dawn Wiggins-Hare, Alabama, West Florida, laywoman, white, older adult.
Welcome to the last day of legislative committee work. No excitement?
None. None.
It is Saturday for those of us who are wondering what day of the week it is. We are sure that you want to be inside, working your way through petitions, making sure that you have filled out all the proper paperwork to prepare us for next week's plenary sessions. We want to remind you that G-Corps and G-Casvero and our teams of monitors have been filing monitoring reports with the Daily Christian Advocate. And again today, you can read a summary of our observations, celebrations, and challenges across the plenary and legislative sessions.
Friends, over the last 2 days, you have had a chance to organize, to prioritize, to divide into subcommittees, to rearrange furniture, to greet one another, and to seek to perfect those petitions through holy conferencing. Holy conferencing viewed through the lens of the rules of General Conference, and again through the default lens of Robert's Rules. You have now had multiple opportunities to practice inclusion, and we wanted to report back on one of them, gender inclusion. Who was called upon to speak and who actually did speak in the plenary and legislative committees. So how did you do?
Combining the data from across 14 legislative committees, here is our report card today.
Can you believe that? Yes? Hey folks, come on. You saw it here first. We've been working a long time for this. Can you just pause and see how beautiful that chart is?
51.1 female speakers, 47.9 male speakers, 1% non-binary speakers. Church, you get an A.
I agree. Yes, give yourself applause. Yes, and let us point out that not every committee had an even distribution of speakers. One committee had no women called upon for an entire session. But when the aggregate data is combined, these were the findings.
Yes, and our monitors are reporting, and indeed many of you have reported directly to us that there is still a difference in the balance of power with titles being used for some people. Usually males and white females are referred to by their first names, while males are used by titles. The language we choose establishes the power dynamics of the room, including this room.
On this last day of legislative committee work, you may find yourself tired and ready to finish your work quickly. Sometimes this leads to our forgetting to follow our good practices of speaking slowly, listening carefully, and making sure that all voices in the room have an opportunity to be heard.
So delegates, here is our opportunity today. Stop and ask yourself, whose voice have we not heard? For these are important decisions to be made in faithful ways, and we want to ensure that all voices and lived experiences are honored in the deliberations of our Holy Conference team.
On the first day, Gio and I shared with you the code of conduct, the values and ethics, and the personal boundaries that were needed for respect and safety of delegates and for the integrity of our work here at this General Conference. As a reminder, we want to remind you, if you see something, say something. And if you need to report a harassment of any kind, including sexual misconduct, that report should be made to the Office of the Secretary of General Conference in room 103. But friends, our monitors will walk along beside you, so will Gio or I if you need us.
Delegates, church, it is Saturday, and we are off to a great start. Where is the excitement? I hear someone clap. We are off to a great start.
No, really.
I know I'm tired, but let us continue to focus on our self-awareness and caring for others, and we will move closer to perfection together. Dios, danos este día el pan de cada
God,
día.
give us this day our daily bread that we need to
Give us
end in
this
a
day
strong way, and then we
the
can
daily
rest.
bread we need to finish our work strong and then rest.
Amen.
Thank you, Don and Giovanni. The next item of business is some of our administrative committee reports. The first committee report will be presented by the Committee on Agenda and Calendar. The chair recognizes the chair of the Committee on Agenda and Calendar, Emily Allen, and the coordinator of calendar, Susan Brumball. to present their report. As they approach the microphone, please have your voting devices prepared and ready.
Thank you, Bishop. The schedule for today is printed on page 2067 in today's DCA. That's page 2067. The Committee on Agenda and Calendar recommends the following changes for the remainder of today. Following administrative committee reports, we will take care of the Interjurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy elections, followed by nominations. After that, we will hear the report from the Jurisdictional Study Committee, and then we will continue to work through calendar items as time allows. The Westpath New Retirement Plan overview will be moved to a later day. Bishop, I move the adoption of today's agenda with the changes I have described.
It is moved to adopt the agenda with the changes as described. In a moment, we're going to open the pool so that if you wish to speak, you may register. I saw a couple checkered flags. If you are not receiving attention, would you please raise those higher to make sure that we're all attended to? We have, the question is on the adoption of the motion to adopt the agenda with the changes as described. You may now register to speak. Is there any discussion? We do have one person who is in the pool. This person would like to speak for, and so I call Gilbert Cedillo to microphone number 4. I don't see anyone in the pool or at the microphone. I am assuming that person has now withdrawn their name from the pool. We will now proceed to the vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the agenda with the changes as described. Those in favor, press 1. Those opposed, press 2. You may vote now. Have all who wish to vote done so? The voting is now closed. We will now have the results of the vote on the screen. 700 votes in the affirmative, 18 votes in the negative, and the motion passes. The affirmative vote has it, and the motion is adopted. The agenda is adopted.
Good morning. I'm Susan Brumbaugh, coordinator of the calendar. Lay, white, female, adult. And today is, say it with me, Saturday. So let's prepare to vote on consent calendar A02 that was printed in yesterday's DCA. French, Kiswahili, and Portuguese translations are on page 2063, and the English translation is on page 2061. 2063 or 2061. All of the consent calendar items are correct as presented. Although a request to remove an item was received, it was received after the deadline, and therefore no items were removed. Bishop, I move that we accept the actions on consent calendar A02.
The question on the adoption of the consent calendar. this consent calendar is A02. Please get your voting device. We will now proceed to a vote. This motion requires a 2/3 vote. The question is on the adoption of consent calendar A02. Those in favor, press 1. Those opposed, press 2. You may vote now. Have all voted who wish to do so? I see a flag on the right. I see 2 flags on the right. Continue to hold your flags up if you're in need of assistance so that you can easily be seen. Section A. I see a flag in section C. Takes a moment to make sure everyone has the capacity to vote. That's why we're pausing. Have all voted who wish to do so? I still see a flag on my right in section A. Oh, I've got a plus sign, so all right. Voting is now closed. May we have the results of the vote? There are 671 in the affirmative and 57 in the negative. There are 2/3 in the affirmative and the motion is adopted. The consent calendar is approved.
Again, more things we did just now. I want to also draw your attention to the consent calendars printed at the end of today's DCA. If you will turn to page 2084, all languages, 2084, you'll find consent calendar A03 for items related to the Book of Discipline. Consent calendar B03 for items related to the Book of Resolutions begin on page 2090. So B03 is on 2090. Today we have a consent calendar C03, which contains motions to refer, and that appears on page 2098. And as a reminder, if you would like to remove an item from any of today's consent calendars, delegates can request that form in room 103. It must be returned to the room, that same room, 103, by 3 o'clock on the day the item is printed, so 3 o'clock today. Now, if you will turn to page 2099, I would like to share some information that may be helpful to new delegates and maybe all of us. At the top of the page, it says calendar items R03. The R that you see tells us that these are regular calendar items. That's what the R stands for. And I recognize that in other languages, that might not make any sense at all. These are the items that will be available for discussion on the plenary floor starting Monday, and the Committee on Agenda and Calendar, in consultation with the legislative committee chairs determines what order to consider these items and other regular calendar items that were published earlier last week. So I just wanted you to have that information. Thank you, Bishop. That concludes our report.
Thank you. The next administrative committee report. Let me pause. There is a point of inquiry. I call George Howard to microphone number 3.
Bishop George Howard, West Ohio, lay, older adult. My question is, I understand that constitutional amendments carry a 2/3 vote to pass. I'm just curious why consent calendars also carry a 2/3 vote required to pass.
The reason is that we are amending something that was previously adopted, and that requires that 2/3 threshold.
Previously adopted by the committee.
By the body.
Thank you.
The next administrative report is the Committee on Journal report. The chair recognizes the chair of the Committee on Journal. This is Rachel Boots Miller.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm Rachel Miller, an ordained deacon from West Ohio. Happy birthday! Yes, 29 and holding, forever and ever, amen. I am thankful that it is Saturday and Sunday is coming for a much-needed day of rest for all of us. And once again, I bring the report from the Committee on the Journal. Our daily proceedings will not be printed, but will be posted in the DCA website under the Proceedings tab. This is a great tool, and we encourage all of you to take advantage of it by logging into dailychristianadvocate.org. And again, that's dailychristianadvocate.org. The most current proceedings will be posted at the top, and our goal is to have all proceedings posted by the beginning of the day on Monday. The errata for today can be found on page 2068 of the April 27th DCA. DCA Volume 5, Number 1, page 1858. In the list of petitions submitted by persons who are no longer United Methodist, the submitter of petition 20406, Amy Land, is incorrectly listed as withdrawn clergy instead of disaffiliated laity. We have some additional corrections to share from the Legislative Committee and Subcommittee officers found in DCA Volume 5, Number 3, page 2006. The General Administration Subcommittee Chair 1 is incorrectly listed as Bev Williams. The correct name is Ben Williams. The Church and Society 3 Legislative Chair is incorrectly listed as Stephen Quip, and the corrected name is Stephen Quigg. The elected Assistant Secretary of the Higher Education and Superintendency Legislative Committee was omitted from the list of officers. The following should appear before Subcommittee Chair Number 1. Assistant Secretary Francisco Nito. DCA Volume 5, Number 2, page 1991, and DCA Volume 5, Number 4, page 2061. The description of Rule 33-7, removing a calendar item from the consent calendar, incorrectly states that the consent calendar removal request forms are in room 104. And you've heard that correction, I think, earlier this morning from Susan as well. These forms should be picked up and dropped off in room 103. And again, that's room 103, not 104. Bishop, I move the adoption of the schedule as corrected.
It is moved to adopt the proceedings as corrected. In a moment, we're going to open the pool, so if you wish to speak, you may register. The question is on the adoption of the proceedings as corrected. We will now proceed to a vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adopting of the proceedings as corrected. Those in favor, press 1. Those opposed, press 2. You may vote now. I am observing persons who need assistance, delegates who need assistance, and they are receiving that, but we're pausing to make sure that everyone is able to vote. I don't see any more checkered flags. Have all who wish to vote to the right, section A? Have all voted who wish to do so? The voting is now closed. May we have the results of the vote? There are 703 votes in the affirmative. There are 25 votes in the negative. The affirmative vote has it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Bishop.
The next administrative committee report is the Committee on Courtesies and Privileges. The chair now recognizes the chair of the Committee on Courtesies and Privileges, Rachel Fagans.
Hi, good morning. Buenos dias. Bom dia. Bonjour. Habari za asubuhi. I am Raquel Fagans, and I am a clergywoman in the Rio, Texas conference. Friends, it has been really great being with you this week and to see the light of God shine through you. A couple of weeks ago, we had a total solar eclipse in parts of the United States. And I live in San Antonio, which is in the path of totality. It was cloudy, so we didn't get a full view, but we did experience darkness, like nighttime, for over 2 minutes. And I was able to see the ring just for a couple of seconds, and it brought me great joy. It lifted up my spirits. The sun was obscured, but only for a little bit, not permanently. Sometimes in a big space like this, you might feel invisible, or others might make you feel invisible. But I want to echo what Bishop Berlin said, and I want to invite you to be intentional about truly seeing one another and listening to one another. So I'm gonna ask you to turn back, turn around, and see who's sitting behind you. And at the count of 3, I want us all to say, I see you, I see you, I see you. Siblings, we are so grateful for this time of holy conferencing. And we have many visitors and observers. We have observers here in the room. Let us wave to them. And also at home. And they are praying for us and wishing us well. We have received greetings from representatives of the Church of the Nazarene who are here as observers. So, hello, Church of the Nazarene, and let us greet them. Thank you so much, and if you have any requests of privilege or courtesy, you can email them to gccourtesies@gmail.com or find me at section A2. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Grateful for your work. Raquel, oh, I'm so sorry. Names really do matter. Do you ever miss names? Yeah, me too. And so thank you for your grace in that. I want to go back to Delegate George Howard and a question that he asked the chair earlier. The chair was provided incorrect information in answer to Mr. Howard's inquiry. And regardless, the vote requirement for the changes to the Book of Discipline that are not constitutional amendments, excuse me. They are sort of constitutional memories too, but it's a different matter. Our parliamentary authority requires a 2/3 vote for such a motion. However, Rule 31 only requires a majority vote. And so, Delegate Howard, thank you for your question and the opportunity to correct that. I now see a point of inquiry, Jerry Kula. When you come forward, sir, you will need to state your point of inquiry. It is a question.
Good morning, conference. I am the Reverend Jerry Kula from the Liberia Annual Conference. I have a point of inquiry. The point of inquiry is this. Is it true that at this General Conference, no delegate is allowed to ask for a moment of privilege? Rather, he or she has to send it over to the Courtesies to speak on his or her behalf? If so, I would like to know why.
Thank you for your point of inquiry. There is a process by which a delegate can do that. Plan of organization, page 2028 of the Daily Christian Advocate states, the responsibility of the Committee on Courtesies and Resolutions is, and I'm reading line 214 and 215, to consider all matters of privilege as appropriate, to recommend to the conference that they may be heard. Furthermore, lines 225 through 227 state, no person or persons shall be presented whose request has been denied by the Commission on the General Conference, nor after the 6th day unless approved by a 2/3 vote of the conference. That is the answer to your question. That applies to all delegates. We thank you for your question, and I ask you now to be seated. The next report is the report of the Committee on Presiding Officers. The chair recognizes the chair of the committee, Jasmine Rose Smothers, to present their report.
Good morning. Seriously? Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm Jasmine Smothers, adult, female, African-American clergy delegate from the North Georgia Conference in the United States. Y'all are so kind. My pronouns are she, her. Auden Westad and I lead the Committee on Presiding Officers, and our team of 12 people represent each Central Conference and each U.S. jurisdiction.
Good morning. My name is Auden Westad, and I'm a lay delegate from the Norway Annual Conference. A wise woman once told me that in heaven we will all speak Finnish because it takes an eternity to learn. But I will try and give you, my dear friends, a head start on this. Hyvä huomenta. Toivottavasti sinulla on ollut Hyvä aamu. Bishops Burgess Nunez and Bishop Palmer led us so well yesterday. Let's all give them a big round of applause. In fact, let's thank all the bishops who has led us through this first week.
On Monday, we will welcome Bishop Kenitha Bigham Sai from the North Central Jurisdiction, Bishop Sandra Steiner Ball from the Northeastern Jurisdiction, Bishop Monday Mayambo from the North Katanga area, and Bishop Frank Beard from the North Central Jurisdiction. As a reminder, please speak slowly, concisely, and without idiomatic expressions like "God willing and the creek don't rise." We love that one in the South too.
Thank you for your cooperation with our presiding officers. We will see you all next week. Hyvää päivää kaikille.
Thank you, Jasmine and Auden. We now turn to the next item of business. It is the election of the Interjurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy. The chair recognizes the Secretary of the General Conference to direct our attention to the Daily Christian Advocate and to provide some corrections to the list of nominations.
Thank you, Bishop. If you have ever tried to track a list of names this long over 8 or 9 years and keep track of every single change that has come in, you will know the challenge we have had on this particular list. We have been updating this list as we have been notified, and I'm sure there may be 1 or 2 additional changes. I would like to announce to you the 3 corrections that I have received since this list has been printed. On page 2076, for the Great Plains Conference, the layperson remove Oliver Green and replace with Lisa Maupin. For the clergy, replace David Livingston with Amy Lippolt. For the North Georgia layperson, on page 2077, 2077, left column, about 2/3 down the page, it says "to be named North Georgia." Please place the name Rachel Fullerton in that location. Rachel Fullerton. If you have editorial corrections such as spelling of name or your preferred name, that is not something we need to care for at this moment, but you can supply it to me and we will correct the record. As we move into this set of elections, I do want to let you know that when Susan reminded us it was Saturday, it is also important to remember that today is day 5 of General Conference. And by discipline, the group of people we are about to elect must organize within the first 5 days. So your meeting will be at 6 p.m. tonight in Richardson AB, and dinner will be provided. It is simply to organize and then to schedule your working meeting that will occur next week. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you. Delegates, as stated by the Secretary of the General Conference, if you observe any misspelled names on any nomination list, we apologize for that. If there are such instances, please communicate with the Secretary of the General Conference or his staff, and those will be corrected. If you are in the speaker recognition pool with a request to make a correction, we would ask you to remove your name if it's an editorial correction that can be handled in that manner. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to turn to a point of inquiry now. Jasper Peters, please go to microphone 2 from Rocky Mountain.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Jasper Peters. I am a black man, an adult, clergy person from the Legacy Rocky Mountain Annual Conference. Not an editorial, but a substantive correction on page 2077. Havea Tukutau is listed under the Rocky Mountain Annual Conference. This should read Gayla Joe Slauson. This correction was submitted prior to General Conference as well as via email this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jasper, thank you. 2077, Gayla Joe Slauson is the appropriate name. Now, those of you who are in the pool, I'm observing 4 persons in the pool. If these are editorial corrections, I would ask you to take your name out of the pool. I'm observing the time is 9:40, and so we want to use our time well. And so I'm going to start with a point of information from Jethro Moyambi. Please go to microphone 2 from South Congo.
Merci, Monseigneur Évêque, pour la parole.
For giving me the floor. My name is Jethro Muyombi, a lay person from the Conference of South Congo. I'm taking the floor with a question.
I just want to ask a question. If the conference are allowed to add one other name in the list that we have in the report that we received, if it is yes or not, and if it is yes, how is the process to add the name? That is my question, Bishop. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The answer to the question is no. Nominations are not allowed from the floor. In accordance with paragraph 512 of the Book of Discipline, nominees must be nominated by their annual conference delegations. They had to come through their conference. I'm noting another point of inquiry. Rebecca Tress, microphone 1, please. The Dakotas.
Rebecca Trez, Clergy Dakotas Conference, white female adult. And I am noting a change to the names listed for the Dakotas Conference. Our lay person should be Beata Ferris, and our clergy delegate should be Reverend Sarah Nelson.
Thank you for that. Those are noted. And I assume that you'll give the proper spelling to the Secretary of the General Conference so that we make sure that all is cared for. I'd like to recognize Erica Shannon Stuvey. It's a point of inquiry, microphone 5 from Iowa.
At 6. Thank you, Bishop Berlin. Erica Shannon Stevie, white laywoman, adult, Iowa, and my fellow NCJ member here, Paul, let you introduce yourself.
Paul Perez, Michigan, clergy, deacon, Latinx, adult, man.
And we have 2 corrections on behalf of the North Central Jurisdiction. On page 2076, for Indiana, the clergy person should be the Reverend Dr. Elise Fulbright.
And on page 2077 for the Northern Illinois Conference,
Come closer to the microphone,
Sorry.
please. We want to make sure to hear you.
On page 2077 for the Northern Illinois Conference, the lay delegate should be Ronnie Lyle, and the clergy delegate, Reverend Brian Gilbert.
We thank you for those corrections, and please bring those names to the Secretary of the General Conference.
Bishop, I hate to interrupt. I could not hear, and I don't have the last name that was just said at the microphone.
Can you please return to the microphone and speak clearly into it and closely to it?
Yep, and I'll walk them up there, Gary.
Thank you.
For Indiana, the Reverend Dr. Elise Fulbright, clergy, Illinois, Northern Illinois, Ronnie Lyle for lay, and the Reverend Brian Gilbert for clergy.
Friends, the body should note that the chair was not in error when he recognized these two speakers. They were both in the speaker pool. I was taking points of inquiry and information first, and then I was moving to those who had the amendments that were just shared. Please get your voting devices ready. In a moment, we will cast one ballot vote to elect the nominees as printed. We will now proceed to vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the motion to elect the Interjurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy with the noted corrections as announced by the Secretary of the General Conference and those delegates who have been recognized. Those in favor may press 1. Those opposed, press 2. Please vote now. I do not see any checkered flags. Oh, here we have some. Checkered flags I see now seem to have assistance. We're pausing to make sure that those delegates are cared for. Certainly grateful to all the pages and the those who work with the voting devices. We're providing prompt and careful attention. I know that we have 1 or 2 individuals who are receiving attention at this time, but have all voted who wish to do so otherwise. I think that we're cared for in D. I think that's right. Voting is now closed. May we have the results of the vote? There are 690 in the affirmative. There are 33 in the negative. The affirmative vote has it. The motion is adopted. The nominees listed are elected to the Interjurisdictional Committee on Episcopacy. The next item of business is the nominations of the University Senate. The chair recognizes the General Secretary of the General Council to provide General Conference to provide details of the nominations and elections.
Thank you, Bishop. We will be turning to page 2000 2072 in today's Daily Christian Advocate. Page 2072 in today's Daily Christian Advocate. For University Senate, 4 names have already been placed and appointed by the Council of Bishops. Those names are printed here for your information, and you would not want to consider those as we are making the next set of nominations, should you make any from the floor. This group is divided into 2 sections. We receive 6 nominations from the Council of Bishops in each of the 2 sections, and from each of those lists of 6, we will be electing 2 persons. If you wish to nominate other people to be placed in addition to those 6 names in either category, we need you to be very clear that one group needs to be chief executive officers of United Methodist related educational institutions, and the second group is other positions relevant to academic or financial affairs or church relationships. We are ready to open the floor.
Delegates, you may now register using option number 7, Other Parliamentary, to register in order to be recognized to make a nomination for the first group, which is the position of the Chief Executive Officer of the University Senate. Chief Executive Officers of the University Senate. Again, this is nominations for the position of Chief Executive Officers of the University Senate. Nominations are now open. You may register using option 7. I first call on, the chair calls on David Grout, microphone 5 from Kentucky.
David Grout, Kentucky Conference, white male. My question may be out of order because I didn't realize there was an order to how we were going to be voting. My question, though, is from the floor nomination restriction applicable across the board? I think you've answered no. My question has to do with Judicial Council.
Thank you. If we would move now to Jeffrey Kuan, K-U-A-N, it's microphone number 5 from California, Nevada.
Bishop Jeffrey Kuan, Asian American male, older adult. I would like to nominate Dr. James E.K. Hildreth, President and CEO of Meharry Medical College.
The nomination is Dr. James E. Hilder is now nominated. I now turn to Delegate Lanella Smith, North Carolina. Please go to microphone number 2.
Lanella Smith, lay delegate, African American female from the North Carolina Conference. I nominate Dr. Dennis Blackwell of the Greater New Jersey Conference.
Dr. Dennis Blackwell is nominated.
Which school?
My assistants behind me here are helping me. That's why you have them there. I would like you to come back to the microphone and share that person's role and their institution. If the delegate would return, this is Delegate Smith. If you would return to microphone number 2, and for any nominations, just provide their role and their institution.
Dr. Blackwell currently is on the Judicial Council. and a pastor in Greater New Jersey. I'm not sure what institution I need to provide.
What are you nominating for? We just want to make sure that we're really clear. What is this nomination?
He's not, it's not the first group that's executive officers, and I thought I could nominate him for the second group.
I'm going to ask you to return to your seat, and when we come to that second group, that will be the appropriate time to come to the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
We want to make sure that your person gets in the right spot. We are currently talking about chief executive officers of the University Senate. Earlier I said that Dr. Blackwell was nominated. That was incorrect. We've corrected that. I see no one else in the speaker pool. If there's no objection, nominations for the position of chief executive officers of the University Senate will be closed. Since there is no objection, nominations for the position of chief executive officers of the University Senate are closed. I am recognizing a point of inquiry. Cassis, Alarine, Irambona, please go to microphone 5 from Burundi. And you will begin, of course, by stating a question. This is a point of inquiry.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Pachisa Lahini Rambona. I'm a layperson, young adult from the Burundi Annual Conference. I wanted to ask a question if the nomination have to come from seated delegates. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The answer is no. I see no one else in the speaker pool. Delegates, you may now register using, I'm going to pause for just a moment. If the delegate from Burundi would please come back to the microphone, we'd like to ask you a follow-up question, just to make sure that we're giving you the correct information. Please repeat your question when you come to the mic. Repeat the question.
Thank you, Bishop. My question was a question of clarification. I wanted to know if people that are being nominated here to be in that committee have to be seated delegate at this general conference.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. They do not have to be seated delegates. Thank you for the question. Delegates, you may now register using option 7, Other Parliamentary, to register in order to be recognized to make nominations for the position or other positions relevant to academic, financial, or church relationships of the University Senate. Again, this is nominations for other positions relevant to academic, financial, or church relationships of the University Senate. Nominations are now open. You may register using option 7, titled Other Parliamentary. There is one person in the pool, Darlene Alfred. Please go to microphone 1. The delegate is from Central Texas.
Darlene Alfred, lay, Central Texas Conference, African American female. I would like to nominate Maria Dixon Hall, Senior Advisor to the President and Chief Diversity Officer at Southern Methodist University. She's clergy from the North Texas Conference.
Maria Dixon Hall is nominated.
Thank you.
The chair calls on Ian Urola, Upper New York, microphone 5, please.
Is microphone 6 okay, Bishop?
Yes. Yes.
Ian Carlos Oriola, lay, young adult, Latinx male from the Upper New York Annual Conference. And I would nominate the Reverend Dr. Stephen Cady.
Let me interrupt you
Yes.
for just a moment. Stay where you are.
Sure.
We're going to come right back to you, but we have a point of order. And when a point of order appears in the pool, it's important to answer it at that moment. So thank you for your patience. The point of order has now disappeared. What a wonderful thing. I didn't know that could just happen. Let's savor the moment, shall we? And now back to microphone 6. We'd love to hear your nomination.
My nomination is for the Reverend Dr. Stephen Cady. He is clergy member of the Upper New York Annual Conference, and he is the president of Bright Divinity School in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thank you. Stephen Higgy is nominated.
Cady.
That's even better. Higgy. Thank you. Yeah, we really do want to receive those names appropriately. I'm going to turn now to Delegate Ken Nelson, microphone 4 in South Carolina. Well, from South Carolina.
Ken Nelson, clergy member, African American male, pronouns he. I'd like to nominate the Reverend Dr. Peter Maggetto Maiko, Vice Chancellor, President, and CEO of Africa University.
Delegate Nelson, please state that name again.
Dr. Peter Maggetto Maiko, M-A-I-K-O, Vice Chancellor, President, and CEO of Africa University.
Thank you for the nomination. Dr. Peter Mayogo, Vice President and Chancellor of African University, is nominated. We're going to pause for one moment. There's a question about the previous nomination. I'm going to check that and then come back to you. So friends, here is where we are. Some of you have nominated persons who are CEOs. Those persons would have been appropriate for the first category. Now, just a moment ago, we closed those nominations. If you want to nominate a CEO, you will need to reopen those nominations for the first pool, and then we can do that work. And so if that's your desire, you can do so, but CEOs are not appropriate for this pool of nominations. That is my understanding from the General Secretary. While you're thinking on that, I'm going to move on to some other nominations. I call on Joe Daniels, Baltimore, Washington Conference, microphone 6. And I would observe to you at this moment, there are 5 persons in the pool, including Delegate Daniels, who is coming to microphone 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Joe Daniels, Baltimore, Washington Conference. I rise to nominate Dr. Dennis Blackwell
for this.
Delegate Daniels, come a little closer to that microphone. We're not hearing you well.
Yes, can you hear me now? I rise to nominate Dr. Dennis Blackwell for this category. Dr. Blackwell is a member of the Judicial Council and pastor in the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference.
What academic institution?
Dr. Blackwell is affiliated with Asbury Theological Seminary.
Can you say it a little bit louder? With Asbury?
Dr. Blackwell is affiliated with Asbury Theological Seminary.
What is his position, please? I'm not trying to be particular. I'm trying to make sure that the person is properly nominated.
Right. I am not clear of the position he holds.
Let me ask the delegate to please find that out and then return to them, put yourself back in the pool. I'm going to call on you later. Let's make sure the person is properly nominated.
Will do.
Thank you. And now I'm turning to Kalaba Chali, the Great Plains Conference. Please go to microphone 4.
Bishop
Let me pause you. We have a point of order that has appeared. George Lockwood. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jorge Lockwood. If you would please go to microphone 3, the New York Conference. Jorge, thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Is this loud enough? Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
I can, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is Jorge Lockwood. I'm a cisgender male lay delegate from the New York Annual Conference. My point of order has to do with the information we just received from you, from the Secretary.
You will need to cite a rule to make this point of inquiry. That's in the rules that have been adopted. Do you have a rule?
Could you help me? I'm asking the assistance of my friend Tim Riss to help me with that particular point. It was information that was given.
This has to do with the category that we are nominating people for, which is in the plan of order.
In the plan of order, we have 2 different categories, Bishop. So this is not part of the rules, but it is part of the document that we have before us. And it states that we're nominating chief executive officers of a United Methodist related educational institutions. So Bright University, which was just referred to with Stephen Cady, my understanding that is not a United Methodist related educational institution. So I would say that I would ask the chair to consider the nomination to be in order instead of not in order.
The information that's been brought to us is that the document states that these need to be persons who serve a United Methodist institution. Jorge, am I hearing you correctly, that that's your primary point, and that's a qualifying aspect for these nominations?
Yes, sir. Just to be double clear, in the case of Stephen Cady's nomination, it was stated from the chair that the nomination was not in order because he was an chief executive officer of a United Methodist related institution, which is the category that we were not looking at right now. But because he is not in a United Methodist related institution, I would ask the chair to consider that the nomination is in order because he becomes 2 other positions relevant to academic or financial affairs or church relationships, which is the matter we are nominating for at this moment.
The chair thanks the delegate. The point is well taken. Thank you. So the person is eligible. The chair stands corrected and is grateful for the correction so that we can do our best work together. Thank you. We have another, just to let you know what I'm looking at, we have 2 points of inquiry. I'm going to take those. And then we have, we have a number of points of inquiry. So let's go here. Gomer Chamasu from South Congo, you are at microphone 2, please. You will need your headphones, is my guess.
Merci, Bishop. Gomer Chamoussa.
Thank you, Évêque Gomer Chamoussa.
Conférence annuelle du Sud Congo.
South Congo Annual Conference.
D'un éclaircissement.
I need a clarification because I do not understand.
De la chaire, vous avez dit,
You had stated from the podium that somebody could not nominate it, somebody could not be nominated, but at the same time, the nominations are taking place. I would like to have clarification because I am confused. Thank you.
So what I said is that some persons were not eligible. We just actually had a correction to one of those individuals. But nominations are still open. We are moving group by group. And so we're in the second group now, I believe. And so that's why we are continuing to receive these nominations. Thank you. I have another point of information. Effie McAvoy, please go to microphone 1, the New England Conference.
Thank you, Bishop. I am Smiling Effie McAvoy, Clergy, New England. You didn't use my full government name. I am grateful. My question is, would it be appropriate to ask that we refer to the previous vote and to reconsider that so that we could then nominate those persons who were missed before because there was lack of understanding? That is my question. Is that an appropriate motion?
Thank you for the question.
Can I take my seat?
You can take your seat.
Thank
We're
you.
going to consult for just a moment. Thank you. So here's the answer to your question. Let's finish this pool of nominations. And when we finish this pool, then reopen the first pool if you desire. All right, we have another point of order. Holly Grant, microphone 5, East Ohio.
Holly Grant, East Ohio. My question is why Dr. Dennis Blackwell was out of order.
Delegate Grant,
Yes.
you will need to state a rule. That is always required with a point of order.
I thought I just had to state a question. Well, may I give a point of information then? I went back and forth in the queue as to which one to use, and I was confused. So I can go back to my seat and put in a point of information if that would be more appropriate.
That is the appropriate thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. There is a point of order. Jim Sally, South Carolina. Please go to microphone 4.
Bishop Jim Sally, lay, South Carolina, black, African American. Reverend Ken Nelson from South Carolina provided a name. You had a conversation with the Secretary of the General Conference, and you conveyed that conversation to us. Was the name submitted by Reverend Nelson ruled out of order, or does it still stand?
So Reverend Nelson nominated someone who was a CEO. That person is appropriate in the first pool. We are working on the second pool. When the second pool is complete, we can reopen the first pool, giving Reverend Nelson the opportunity to place that name in that space. I'm not going to recognize you at this time because a point of order requires a rule to which you are referring. And we want to get through this second pool in a timely manner, and there are numerous people in the speaker pool at this time. I ask the delegate to please return to his seat, and we will move to the next order. There is a point of inquiry or information by Tom Salzgiver. Please go to microphone 1, Susquehanna Conference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom Salzgiver, Susquehanna Conference, white, clergy, older adult. My inquiry is that the nomination of Dr. Blackwell was to Asbury Seminary. My question is around the rule of being United Methodist. Are they United Methodist, or do they just accept United Methodist students? If they are not United Methodist related, then I believe that's an inaccurate nomination.
So that is information helpful should that person be nominated. They are not properly nominated at this time. Point of inquiry, Holly Grant, microphone 5, please, East Ohio.
Holly Grant, East Ohio, laity. My point of inquiry is regarding Dr. Dennis Blackwell. He was nominated as an other position, yet you did not accept that nomination because they didn't provide or because he was associated with a college. I guess I'm not sure. You told the other person that was nominating him that he needed to go in the next pool. They get up, they nominate him in the next pool, and you say, sorry, we're not going to nominate him. He's not appropriate. So can you please explain that further, what you have against putting him in the nomination?
Please define the category. The individual, I believe, is a CEO. Is that correct?
It was my understanding that they were putting him under the position of other positions. And that he wasn't a CEO because when they put him under the first one, you said, no, he doesn't go under that because she wasn't able to give the CEO position. And then they put him under the other position and you said, no, he can't go there because he's associated with college. I am just trying to understand what you are doing.
Then I'm going to turn to the General Secretary, the Secretary of the General Conference, and we're going to just explain these categories so that the body understands what is in each category. By doing this, I am not reopening the first pool. You can do that if you choose. Gary, I'd like you to first describe what individuals are appropriately nominated for the first pool.
Thank you, Bishop. The listing that I have currently, in addition to the 6 who are nominated by the Council of Bishops for the Chief Executive Officers list, we have Dr. James, and I'm working on getting the last name correct, from Meharry Medical. For the second category, would you like me to go there?
I'd like you to explain who goes in that category appropriately. So you can give the names, but I'd like the delegates to understand who is there. That's the point of confusion.
Thank you. The category is defined as Chief Executive Officers of United Methodist related educational institutions. If they are a Chief Executive Officer of a United Methodist related educational institution, they would be considered in the first category.
So you hear that. Now the second category, please define the second category.
As I understand the second category's definition, these are other positions relevant to academic, financial affairs, or church relationships with educational institutions or United Methodist bodies. There is a question in paragraph 1414 as to how specific it is that it be a United Methodist relationship for the second category. If you look at Judicial Council Decision 589, there is a Judicial Council decision on a declaratory decision on the University Synod and the United Methodist Church. I haven't been able to get fully into the digest, but I've been informed number 589 of the Judicial Council decision would be a help to that.
Thank you. Those are the definitions. We are in the pool number 2 that was just described to you, so there's clarity about who you're nominating. If you desire to nominate someone, you need to use the option number 7, other parliamentary. I'm noting 2 delegates in the speaker pool that are not using number 7 and are not having point of orders. And so I would ask you simply to use number 7, take yourself out of the pool, and then put yourself, if you have a nomination, in number 7. I'm going to return to Joe Daniels at microphone number 6, the Baltimore-Washington Conference.
Thank you. Bishop, thank you. I rise again to nominate Dr. Dennis Blackwell. I misspoke. It's Alvernia University he's affiliated with. I'm awaiting the rule from the secretary with regards to the United Methodist affiliation of the institution, if that's required.
Thank you. Delegate Daniels, would you please come back to the microphone? Oh, there you are. Would you please speak again and give us that name? I have never known you to be quiet, sir. And I'm inviting you to use that microphone as a preacher and pastor would and give us that name clearly.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I nominate Dr. Dennis Blackwell. Dr. Blackwell is affiliated with Alvernia University. I am awaiting the ruling of the secretary with regards to whether or not there is a requirement that the institution he is related to has to be United Methodist affiliated.
The chair would like to call on Greg Berquist to clarify if this person is properly nominated. Properly eligible, thank you, is the appropriate terminology. Greg Berquist is our General Secretary of the Board of Higher Education. Number 4, please.
Greg Berquist, white male, clergy, California, Nevada Annual Conference, older adult. So I think in general, we have been using the practice that all University Senate members are working in a United Methodist related or affiliated university. I have not had a chance to look at that judicial decision, but I have a staff member looking at it right now.
When you have that response, we're going to work through those that are in the pool. When you have that response, would you please notify me so that we can come back and take care of this matter properly?
Be glad to.
And if you could ask your staff to be expedient, we would be very grateful. I now turn to Lydia Munoz, Eastern Pennsylvania, microphone 5, please.
Thank you, Bishop. Lydia Munoz, Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, clergy, Latina, female. And L'Oreal says I'm still an adult, so I'll take it.
Continue, please.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Cristian de la Rosa, Boston School of Theology, the Associate Dean for Student Life.
Please repeat the name.
Dr. Cristian de la Rosa.
Dr. Christian de la Rosa is nominated.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn now to Remember Masamba from West Zimbabwe. Microphone 4, please.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Remember Masamba, clergy from Zimbabwe West Annual Conference, Zimbabwe. I'm here to stand to nominate Forbes Matonga, currently on the General Board of Higher Education and taught of Africa University and serving at Murewa Mission Center, and is our Secretary for Africa's Central Conference. Thank you.
Can you please restate the name one more time? Thank you.
Forbes Matonga.
Forbes Matonga is...
Yes.
And please state the institution again.
He taught Africa University and is the General Secretary for Africa's Central Conference.
Are you saying Africa University?
He was
in the position? Is that position with Africa University?
No, he was a lecturer.
So does that person have a position in the institution that you just named? And if so, please name that position.
Okay, let me inquire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm noticing the speaker pool has 3 individuals who have noted they want to speak for or against. We're not in that space right now. You use number 7, that tells the chair that you would like to nominate someone. And so those of you who have the for or against, please clear those and put back in if you desire to nominate someone. I'm going to turn to Nimia Charlotta, Northwest Philippines. Microphone 6, please.
Good morning. Nimia Peralta, Northwest Philippines, woman, lay delegate. I respectfully nominate Dr. Junifen Gawan, President of the Philippine Christian University.
Can you restate the name?
Dr. Junifen Gawan.
Dr. Junifen Gawan is nominated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you to come back. Did we not hear those two? Okay, well, what we're observing is when you give the institution and the role, that just makes this go much, much faster. So thank you for doing that. The chair now recognizes Joe Daniels. Please come back, microphone 5, Baltimore, Washington.
Thank you, Bishop. Joe Daniels, Baltimore, Washington Conference. Just trying to offer some clarity on the Dennis Blackwell nomination. Paragraph 1414, in its explanation also refers to church relationships. Dr. Blackwell is pastor of the Asbury Church in New Jersey. Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. That would be a church relationship. So would that then make him eligible or no, based on the paragraph language?
The chair does not believe that that would be sufficient. And the reason is this: the role has to be with the academic institution. That's what appropriately puts the nominee before the body.
Okay, even though that paragraph does say church relationships, that's why I'm trying to get clarity with regards to the disciplinary language and eligibility.
You can see that we're conferring because our desire is to make sure that you've got the right information. Sure. And the understanding of the chair and those assisting the chair is that the relationship has to be with directly with the academic institution.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just, based on the disciplinary language, it's suggesting that church relationship is also.
The chair will now recognize Gary Graves to bring further clarity.
As we are understanding these positions, they are positions with direct professional responsibility in the areas of academic affairs within a United Methodist related institution, within financial affairs within a United Methodist educational institution, or a direct church relationship office that links the church to the institution. That would be the case of any of the connections such as ministerial service positions, boards of ordained ministry that link directly with institutions. It is not a small c, any local church. It's church relations affiliated to the institution.
Thank you for the clarification. Byron Thomas rises to a point of inquiry. Delegate Thomas is in the North Georgia Conference, and I would like to invite you to go to the close microphone. I don't have a number for your microphone.
Microphone 5, Bishop.
Thank you.
Thank you. Byron Thomas, North Georgia, Black African American male. Just a point of clarification. Earlier, a delegate from South Carolina mentioned Vice Chancellor Peter Maggetto, who is CEO. Does a person being CEO only allow them to be in one category, or can they be nominated in another category?
That would be a
Delegate Thomas, the complexity is that the rule is that CEOs do go in Category 1. That's been the practice of the General Conference. Your question properly states, can a CEO go into another category? It is our understanding that CEOs go into Category number 1. That's what the Secretary of the General Conference has shared with the chair.
So then it makes them ineligible for another category. Is that my understanding?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And again, that pool, that number 1 pool, can be reopened if we finish these in number 2.
Thank you.
I am now turning to Sharon Austin, microphone 2, the Florida Conference.
Thank you, Bishop Berlin. Sharon Austin, African American, female, pronoun she, her, older adult, Florida Conference. I'd like to nominate the Reverend Sharon Bowers, who serves as Director of Church Relations for Emory and Henry College.
Reverend Sharon Bowers is nominated.
Thank you.
I turn now to Greg Berquist, returning to number 4, bringing us information.
Thank you very much. We agree with Secretary Graves in his descriptions of the categories that he just gave. The Judicial Council does not apply to the question you're talking about right now. It was a specific case about a school trying to argue against being removed from the University Senate approved listing. So it was a very specific case.
Put a therefore at the end of that for the group. I want to make sure everybody understands where we are. Therefore.
So Gary, can you just repeat what you just said for the categories?
I will be happy to attempt to do that.
Okay.
The chief executive officers of United Methodist related educational institutions would be in category 1. Other positions related to academic affairs, to financial affairs, or to church relationship positions within the institution directly linked to a United Methodist Church situation. Not any local church being understood to fill that category.
Correct. We agree.
Friends, it is 10:35. We have a number of speakers in the pool. I'm turning now to Manuel Andre, Western Angola. Please go to microphone number 4.
Manuel Andre, Clash, Black African.
I am Manuel Andre, African.
Angola Annual Conference.
Eu sou da Conferência Anual de Angola.
Eu aponto João Manuel da Graça para a Comissão de Arquivo e História.
I nominate João Manuel da Graça for the Archive and History. He is a professor. He is a lecturer of the United Methodist University in Angola for more than 10 years. We believe he has the capacity and intellect needed to occupy this position.
Sir, may I ask you to repeat the name of the nominee?
Sorry, Bishop, I didn't get you. João Manuel da Graça.
João Manuel da Graça, that's the name. João Manuel da Graça, that's the name.
Jean Manuel de Graça is nominated. The chair now turns to David Grout with a point of information or inquiry. Microphone 5, please, Kentucky.
David Grout, Kentucky Annual Conference, white male. Point of information that may help clarify one of the questions on the floor. Dr. Bill Arnold was elected to the University Senate.
Sir, the point of information is a question.
Okay.
It is not you offering information, it is you seeking information. Let me ask you to take your seat, and we're going to move on to the next person.
Can I word that as a question? By simply asking, does precedent speak to the question? There is the precedent.
Please state your question.
Does precedent speak to the question of institutional alignment? Can it be helpful?
The ruling that we're working with, the discussion that we're working with, is based on the current information that has been read by the General Secretary.
Right.
It is not based on precedent. We are not pulling back. We are at this conference with the rules that you have appropriately adopted for this conference, and we're just attempting to uphold those rules. So I invite you to take your seat. I'm going to receive the other nominations so that we can continue to move through this. James Amerson, Rio, Texas. Microphone 1, please.
Thank you, Bishop. James Amerson, Rio, Texas, black clergy, male. I rise to nominate Reverend J.D. Herrera, who is the Dean of Enrollment at Austin Seminary. He's part of the Executive Cabinet overseeing financial aid, recruitment, and admissions.
Reverend J.D. Herrera is nominated. I turn to Andre Kasalu Bairela, Eastern Angola. Microphone 5, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Andre Vieira, Eastern Angola Annual Conference, clerish delegate. I'll talk in Portuguese so that I can feel comfortable.
I'd like to indicate that the name of Reverend Dr. Beauty Mainzenis, Reverend Dr. Beauty Mainzenis, she's affiliated to the university, to the African University. She's working on the board of global ministries in the area of prayer. She worked at the Faculty of Theology as the dean. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Beauty Gonzalez is nominated. We turn now to a point of inquiry. Beverly Wilkes Knoll, microphone 4, Illinois, Great Rivers.
Beverly Wilkes Knoll, African American clergywoman, Director of Church Relations, McKendree University. My inquiry is, the universities related to the United Methodist Church outside of the United States, do they have their own university senate? And if they serve on those university senates, are they eligible to serve on this university senate as we consider nominees?
I'm going to ask General Secretary Berkowitz to come to microphone number 4 and answer your question. That's a great question. I'm not sure the chair is supposed to actually say if it's a great question or not, but I did, so I apologize to you.
Thank you. I'm going to have to give you a complicated answer. The Philippines have a university senate. The African region just recently began over the last year putting together the Africa Senate for Methodist education. That Senate was just seated within the last week and will begin operations this month. There is no university senate in the European region as yet. Right now, we do have a history of Central Conference members serving on the University Senate in the United States. So it has happened in the past. But as you can see, I think we were preparing for the possibility of working in different regions, because it makes sense. For example, in Africa, the educational leaders in Africa to review, evaluate, do the peer-to-peer learning that's required in a university senate.
Thank you for your response, General Secretary. The chair now calls on Rita Smith, microphone 2, Northern Illinois.
So high. Rita L. Smith, Northern Illinois Conference, laity, African American woman, older adult. I move that we close nominations.
Cheering is not our modality, friends. The motion has been made to close the nominations. We will now proceed to a vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the motion to close nominations. Those in favor? So I'm looking at the speaking pool. That's a requirement that the chair share that. I am eliminating those who have said that they want to speak for or against, because I've said several times that that's not a way to access this pool. There are 4 individuals in the pool who have chosen option number 7. And, I can't see my full screen. I apologize. There are 7 persons who have chosen option 7, other parliamentary, and there are 6 persons who are saying that they would like to close debate. So I have now told you what's in the pool. That helps you in your decision making. We'll now proceed to the vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the motion to close nominations. Those in favor, press 1. Those opposed, press 2. You may vote now. I am not seeing any checkered flags. There is a checkered flag. Oh, I see it, the person in green. Has everyone who desires to vote done so? I believe you. Oh, the green, we still have a hand up we're holding then? Oh, the flag has been cleared. And so voting is now closed. May we see the results of the vote. There are 662 affirmative votes. There are 50 in the negative. The motion has been adopted. Voting on this category is closed. Now, because of the conversation that has occurred, the chair is reopening the first category for nominations to make sure that you've done what you desire to do. Category 1 includes CEOs for executives. Gary, would you please clarify?
Yes, that is to open the CEO category once more to consider the nomination of whoever they should choose to do.
So if you have a nomination, you would use number 7 on your voting device. I'm looking to see if anyone has a nomination for this first category. I'm calling Amy Stewart, microphone 2. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a different one. I want to turn to Ken Nelson in South Carolina, microphone 4.
Ken Nelson, African American male, South Carolina Conference. I'd like to nominate Dr. Peter Maggetto, Africa University.
Dr. Peter Maggetto, can you give us the role?
Vice Chancellor, Africa University.
Thank you. Peter Maggetto is nominated. I don't see any other nominations in the pool. There's no one else in the speaker recognition pool. If there are no objection, the nomination for the position of Chief Executive Officers of University Senate is now closed. Since there is no objection, nominations for that position to Chief Executive Officer is closed. Delegates, so friends, here's where we are. It's 10:48. It's your final day of legislative work. You have to be out of this building by 9:30 p.m. tonight. Our order of the day is at 10:50, and I'm receiving a note. And I'm going to pause and read it. So here's what we need to do. We must do the Judicial Council nominations. And so we're going to do that body of work. I am looking to all the delegates. I'm asking you to do this in an efficient manner. So at this time, we will accept nominations for the Judicial Council. Nominations do not require a second. Delegates, to do this, again, to be recognized, you must use number 7 to make a nomination. It's the other parliamentary button. That will allow me to recognize you to make that nominations. Nominations are now open, and you may register using number 7, option 7. I'm going to turn to Susan Brumbaugh, microphone 1, New Mexico. She's coming to you. Susan, you're not going to be able to use that microphone. We're going to ask you to go down. I'm going to call on someone else, and we're going to come to you. Jimmy Asbell, South Carolina. Microphone 3, please.
Bishop, that's Jimmy Asbell, South Georgia.
Well, thank you, sir.
Clergy, male, adult. I would like to enter into nomination Warren W. Plowden, Jr.
Warren W. Loudon, Jr.
Plowden with a
Plowden
P.
with a P, thank you.
Southeastern Jurisdiction.
Is nominated.
Thank you.
Lay or clergy, sir?
Lay.
Lay, thank you. Joseph Harris, Oklahoma. Microphone 1, please.
Joseph Harris, clergy, Oklahoma, African American male. I rise to nominate Kent Fulton, a lay delegate from Oklahoma, who is Chancellor of the Oklahoma Conference, who has been an alternate to the Judicial Council, and who has helped with...
You can, that's fine, thank you. Kent Fulton is nominated. I'm going to turn back to Susan Brumbaugh. If she would come and receive, we'd like to receive your name, please.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm Susan Brumbaugh from the New Mexico Annual Conference, and I nominate Gary Graves, clergy.
Gary Graves, clergy, is nominated. I'd like to turn to Tanya Murphy, microphone 5, North Georgia.
Tanya Murphy, lay, female, African American, North Georgia Conference. I rise to nominate Harriet Jane Olson, layperson, NEJ.
Harriet Olson?
That's correct.
Is nominated.
Thank you.
I would like to turn now to Rukain Chickum, microphone 2, Northwest Katanga.
Bishop Rukang Chikomb, Northwest Katanga. I would like to nominate Muyombi Chibwe Jetro, layperson in the South Congo Annual Conference.
Please state the name again in lay or clergy.
It is a lay. The name is Muyombi Chibu Jetro.
Chimbu.
Mike Uniform Yankee Oscar Mike Bravo India.
The person is nominated, and if you would bring the name forward, I would be very grateful. And I thank you for your patience and kindness to the chair. Thank you. David Grout, microphone 5, Kentucky.
David Grout, Kentucky Annual Conference, white male. I rise to nominate Solomon Christian for Judicial Council.
Lay or clergy?
Laity.
Solomon Christian is nominated. I would like to turn to Delegate Eli Usambu, the Northwest Katanga Conference. Microphone 2, please. Oh, I am sorry. You have indicated a speech 4, which is not the appropriate category. Please return to your seat. And I'm turning to Edwin Momo of Sierra Leone, microphone number 5. Again, you'll need to use category 7.
Bishop, the name is Edwin Momo, clergy male delegate, Sierra Leone Annual Conference. I rise to nominate Mr. Ismond Nathaniel Belden Gakui. Gakui is spelled Ngakui. Mr. Gakui is a barrister and a solicitor of the Supreme Courts of Sierra Leone, and is also the conference chancellor for the United Methodist Church in Sierra Leone.
Is this a clergy or lay person?
Lay person.
Thank you. Edwin Gakui is nominated.
Bishop Ismon Ngakui.
Eastman, thank you very much. You have appropriately corrected. Make sure we have that name with the correct spelling. Thank you. Robert Kalimbo from Zambia. Microphone 2, please.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm here to nominate Kenneth Pembamoto, lay.
Please give us that name again.
Kenneth Pembamoto.
Bemonto.
Moto, M-O-T-O.
Thank you so much. The person is nominated. I turn now to Andrew Sine, number 5, microphone 5 from Kentucky.
Hello, Bishop. Andrew Singh, Kentucky Conference Clergy, and I would like to nominate Reverend Dr. Esther D. Jada, Clergy, from the Kentucky Conference. She is the Associate Vice President for Intercultural Affairs and Spiritual Development at Asbury University.
Can I have the last name again, please?
Jadav.
Jaba.
J-A-D-H-A-V.
Thank you. Dr. Esther Jaba is nominated. We turn now to Maxwell Moronga, East Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Bishop. Maxwell Mironga, lay delegate, Zimbabwe East Annual Conference, adult. I would like to nominate Molly Shekani Mwayera, who is a sitting Supreme Court member in Zimbabwe, and she has been practicing in the Judicial Council for 32 years.
Just the name and the office.
She is lay.
Thank you. And can you give me her name again, please?
Molly Shekani Mwayera.
Mayera, thank you very much. She is nominated.
Thank you.
I turn now to Katie Pryor, microphone 1, North Texas.
Good morning, Bishop. I am Katie Pryor, lay delegate of the North Texas Conference. I rise to nominate Jessica Vittoria, laity of the North Texas Conference.
Jessica Ventura, thank you. She is nominated. I turn now to Lindsay Kirkpatrick, microphone 2, Texas.
Thank you, Bishop. Lindsay Kirkpatrick, clergy, Texas Annual Conference, white woman, adult. I rise to nominate Reverend David Horton, young clergy, Texas Annual Conference, writer of the famous Horton Brief, pastor of Faith UMC.
Stop. Lay or clergy?
Clergy.
Thank you very much. David Horton is nominated. Thank you for understanding the need to stop, and so we can move on to others. I'd like to call on Judith Keniston, microphone 1, West Virginia.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm Judy Keniston, white adult woman from West Virginia. I rise to nominate Reverend Jeff Taylor, a deacon from the West Virginia Conference.
Jeff Taylor is nominated. Thank you. I turn now to microphone 4, East Congo, Jermaine Mupsa. I would remind those of you who have things in the pool, only number 7 or a point of inquiry or point of order is appropriate. If you have anything other than that, I am not observing you. Please.
Merci, l'évêque, la parole accordée.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Bishop Germain Mupasa from East Congo. I would like to nominate the Honorable Tunda Kasongo.
Kasongo, and can you please tell us clergy or lay?
Clergy.
Clergy.
Lay, please. Sorry.
So to clarify, this person is a lay person.
A lay person.
Thank you. They are nominated.
Thank you.
The chair now turns to David Beckley, microphone 6. Oh, I'm sorry. David, you have put amend, and you need to clear that and put in something that we can deal with at this time. So let me turn to Susan. Let's turn to microphone 4, Sylvester Muthama, East Congo. Is that delegate here? All right, let's turn.
Merci évêque pour la parole. C'est sans objet parce qu'on a déjà nominé celui que je devrais nommer. Merci.
The person I wanted to nominate has already been nominated, so it's not
If you've
applicable
nominated
anymore.
someone who's already been nominated, you can simply take that out. I'd like to turn to Stan Copeland at microphone number 1, North Texas.
Bishop Stan Copeland, North Texas Conference, white male adult, and I would like to move that nominations cease, close.
It's been moved that nominations be closed. Is there a second? There is a second. It has been moved and seconded to close nominations. The motion is before you. Before we vote, there are 6 people in the pool. Let me read this to you, who have nominees. They've indicated with number 7, other parliamentarian. There are 2 persons who would like to close debate, and those are those in the pool. So you have that information. We will now proceed to the vote. This motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the motion to close nominations. I'm sorry, it's a 2/3 vote. We apologize. Those in favor, please press 1. Those opposed, press 2. You may vote now. I am not seeing any checkered flags. Have all those who desire to vote done so? I see a checkered flag over in row 2, section A. We still have time. I see one in section B, back corner there. We're voting on whether to close nominations. All right, I think everyone's received help. We still have a couple of voting devices being moved about. I believe the delegates who need help are receiving help at this time. Those that are helping the delegates, are we clear or can we proceed? Okay, I think we are there. The voting is now closed. May we have the results of the vote? There are 672 votes to the affirmative, 58 votes negative. The motion carries. We have closed the nominations for Judicial Council. Before we adjourn the plenary session, the chair recognizes the Secretary of General Conference, Gary Graves, to provide any announcements.
Thank you, Bishop. In regard to the business we have just completed, if you made a nomination, please be sure to take a motion form from a page at one of the microphones and write the name of the person that you nominated, and please make sure you provide us their email address. We will be sending out emails to them with instructions for submitting the information we will need to print the final list of nominees in the Daily Christian Advocate. They will be instructed to submit the biographical sketch that does not exceed 100 words, and they will be sending it to a secure Dropbox link, and the instructions will be in the email. If the email and the bio is not received by 4 p.m. today, that name will not be able to be included as a nominee because we are required to print the 100-word bio in order to complete the eligibility. Please be sure to pick up a motion form if you made a nomination, and we will compare it to the record that we have here to make sure we have correct spelling and instructions for the 100-word bio. If you are needing to find any item, or you find an item and you need to get it to someone else, our lost and found is in room 103. If you are submitting announcements to be made, they need to be related to the work of the body and approved materials that have been covered by agenda and calendar or the Commission on General Conference, so that we can be careful and be sure that we're announcing only official items related to the work of the General Conference. For our upper room Holy Communion prayer service at lunch, our officiant this morning will be Bishop Cynthia Moore-Cocoy, assisted by Denise Nicole Stone. We encourage you to participate. Thank you, Bishop.
The chair would like to thank everyone for their patience as we've made it through some essential work of the General Conference this morning. Please make sure that you get to your legislative committees as soon as possible. Please do not trickle in slowly, as it was said this morning at an earlier meeting. Please go to those rooms so that you can get started. The 5th plenary session, with gratitude to all involved, is now adjourned.